And we're back. Welcome to the final day of Matchday 1 in the UEFA Nations League. After a night full of drama, once again, a marquee result of the night has to be Italy coming back from that early goal from Barcola to beat France 3-1 in front of their home crowd, piling even more pressure on Didier Deschamps. Now, in terms of the other predictions, that someone put in the top comment, could I see more draws? And I did reply saying I could definitely see a few of those games being draws last night, hence why I only went for 1-goal margins. And it turned out to be that there were an awful lot of draws last night. However, the one that I went for as a draw, which once again was Kosovo, resulted in a 3-0 home defeat to Romania. So once again, Kosovo let me down. It was another night full of red cards. I don't really know what is going on in the Nations League, but there are red cards everywhere at the moment. But all in all, it meant that we only got 2 out of the 8 predictions correct yesterday, which is a rather embarrassing display from myself, because it means at the top of your screen right now, you'll see that we're only 6 out of 17 in the Nations League so far. But we did actually get one of our 2 results actually spot on, which was the Belgium result last night, beating Israel by a scoreline of 3-1. So at least we got that one correct, meaning that we can move on to today with 1 correct score. But at the end of the day, that is actually the point of the Nations League, and that's why I actually think it is a good competition, because it pits sides against each other that are well matched, and that's what it's all about. It does make it incredibly hard to predict, but it makes all of the games more entertaining for the fans, because it makes all these teams believe that they can actually get results when they're usually sides that end up on the receiving end on batterings from the end of the big team. So we'll see how today goes. We've got 9 more fixtures for you today in the UEFA Nations League. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video and subscribing to the channel if you're new around here. And don't forget to check out the community page once again for all of my predictions from the World Cup qualifiers and AFCON qualifiers taking place today. And without any further ado, let's get into it, starting off once again in everyone's favourite league of the Nations League, which is, of course, League D. And we're moving over to Group 2 with today's opener between Moldova and Malta. Now, if you're someone that doesn't know your flags, then this group is a real pain, because you've got Andorra and Moldova in the same group. And thankfully, they're not playing against each other today, because that means I now know that this one is Moldova. But they basically have the exact same flag. But it is Moldova taking on Malta. To be honest with you, this is another one, like I say, with all Nations League games, really, it's a tough one to call. But ultimately, going into this, Moldova have some very good form, and Malta have some decent results in the last couple of years, but nothing really too special. So with it being Moldova at home, I am going to go for a 3-1 win to them. So that's an actual result where I feel like it's pretty confident that Moldova's going to be a win. This is what I say. If I only go for a 1-goal margin, that tells you guys that I think there is a definite possibility of at least a draw in it. But I'm going for a 2-goal victory to Moldova with that 3-1 win. On to League C. The only group from League C today is Group 4, and it is the early game between the Faroe Islands and North Macedonia. Now, these 2 sides actually played each other last year, and it was North Macedonia who came out on top with a 1-0 home win. Over the last few years, the Faroe Islands have been actually really, really good in terms of, you know, just improving. They were always seen as, like, it was the Faroe Islands and San Marino were always seen as the 2 sides that were weaker than everyone else. Well, the Faroes have really pushed themselves more and more over the last few years, so much so that they've got themselves promoted into League C. So coming up against North Macedonia at home, they definitely have a chance, but I also think North Macedonia have improved a lot over the last few years. So with that said, I'm still going to go for a 2-0 win to Macedonia. Faroe Islands haven't actually scored a lot of goals in their last few games. They have been getting a fair few draws, but we'll see. I've gone for 2-0, but there might be a slight chance the Faroes get something from it. The other game in the group sees Armenia taking on Latvia. Now, these 2 sides were another 2 pair of sides that were actually in the same Euros qualification group. We've had that a few times early on this week in the Nations League. And when these 2 sides met before, it was a 2-0 win for Latvia at home and a 2-1 win for Armenia at home. So over the balance of the 2 games, it was actually Latvia who have the 4-3 advantage. However, it is, of course, Armenia who are the home side in this one once again. And I'm actually going to go for the exact same scoreline as that Armenian home win in Euro qualifying, which was a 2-1 victory. In terms of the form guide, again, Latvia have been playing the better football, but the majority of those matches have been against sides lower ranked than them in the FIFA World Rankings. So don't get too carried away with those Latvia results. This is certainly a harder game than what they've faced in a little while. That then brings us on to League B, and we've got two groups in League B today. We've got 1 and 2. We'll start off with Group 1, and the opener is Georgia taking on Czechia, and, well, I mean, both of these sides, again, made it into the Euros, and not only that, they actually were in the exact same Euro group. So where we've had sides that played each other in Euro qualifying, these two are actually in the same Euros group at the final competition. In that match, it was a 1-1 draw with Midukatske and Patrick Schick getting the goals respectively. Do I think much has changed in the few months since? Not really. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw again. I think with them being the home side, you can definitely put some favour in terms of Georgia in that regard. But I still think on paper, the Czechs are probably the stronger side. And then, like I say, you then just sort of have to look at it and say, realistically, they're probably just going to cancel each other out. I'd be very surprised to see this be more than a 1-goal win for either side, which again is why this time I have actually gone for the draw. The other game in the group sees Ukraine taking on Albania, and you want to talk about inconsistency, these are the two sides to talk about. Both have produced big results against some of the top 10 nations in the last couple of years, but both have suffered defeats to sides outside the top 100 in the last 2 years. So it's very hard to place their form. Ultimately, Ukraine have had the slightly better result, and I think, again, ultimately on paper, Ukraine have a slightly better lineup. So with that said, and with them being at home, even though obviously we're not going to get into all of that, I am going to go for a 2-1 win to Ukraine. I would expect them to get the result in tonight's match. But again, I've only gone for a 1-goal margin. Albania are a good side on their day, could get a result, but I'm going to go for 2-1 to Ukraine. That then brings us to League B, Group 2, where we find England, because we got relegated from League A. Thank you, Gareth Southgate. However, it does mean that going into a group against the Republic of Ireland, Greece and Finland, quite frankly, we should win every single one of these games absolutely easily, given the quality of player we have available to us. Now, obviously, we did get all the way to the Euro final, so that should be a pretty good indicator of how good England are in comparison to the rest of the teams who didn't even qualify for the Euros. And obviously, it is Lee Carsley's first game in charge. He's going to want to play a more attacking outlay. We've got all this quality available to us. Obviously, there will be a post-match reaction to this match at full-time whistle. But, well, the reaction will be if we haven't won this game, I'm going to be fuming. So I'm going to go for 3-0 to England. This shouldn't really be a contest. I'm sure Ireland will do everything in their power to get the crowd behind them. Try and make it a sort of derby atmosphere with it being two of the British Isle teams playing against each other. But, I mean, come on. Like, if we don't win this game, it would be absolutely shocking. 3-0 England. Met the job done. Other game in the group is Greece and Finland. And as I've already spoken about, again, neither of these sides actually qualified for the Euros, but both got close, if that makes any sort of sense. Greece probably have the most noticeable wins over the last couple of years. Most notably, of course, well, I say wins, most notable results, should I say, getting that draw against France in one of their final Euro qualifier games, which if they'd have won, I think would have snuck them into the Euros, but it wasn't to be. Finland as well have been playing well recently as well. What was interesting when I looked at the fixtures for these two sides is that they've both been involved in incredibly high-scoring games over the last 12 months. So this could be a fun one, actually, and I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to the home side. Like I said, I think the Greeks are, on paper, the better of the two sides, but both sides have been scoring a lot, both sides have been conceding a lot. This could be a really interesting one, but I am going to go for a 3-2 win to the Greeks. And then that finally brings us all the way up to League A, and it is finally time for Group 1. Standard UEFA protocol. They leave #1 till the final day and just don't like doing anything in order, do they, at UEFA? More on that when we get to the Champions League next week. But we start off with Germany taking on Hungary. These two sides, of course, played at the Euros, and it was a 2-0 win for Germany in their home nation on that occasion. These two were also in the same Nations League group last time around, where it was a 1-1 draw in Hungary and a 1-0 win to Hungary in Germany. So don't be thinking that this is an easy one for Germany, because yes, they beat them a couple of months ago, but a little bit earlier than that, it was actually Hungary that got the better of them. With that being said, I still expect Germany to get the result tonight. They've got a much better team on paper once again, and I think they're looking to build off of what was a really good Euros for them. I am going to go for 3-1 to Germany. I definitely can see Hungary getting themselves a goal, but I think with the quality that Germany have, they're looking to push on, and I think Hungary is a good opening fixture for them. And then finally, it is the Dutch taking on Bosnia, and well, again, I think this is a pretty easy one to call, to be honest. Bosnia, of course, getting promoted from League B to League A, coming up against one of the top sides in the world. Bosnia have actually lost all of their last 6 matches. The Dutch got themselves to the semi-finals of the Euros after finishing 3rd in their Euro group, losing, of course, to England thanks to that dramatic Ollie Watkins last-minute goal. Ultimately, again, I can't see this being anything else other than the Dutch win. It's just going to be a case of by how many, and I am going for 3-0. And that is going to do it for Matchday 1, and that is going to do it for the final day of Matchday 1. We will obviously be back once again tomorrow morning for the first day of Matchday 2. Thank you very much for watching as always. Thank you very much for listening as always. And don't forget to put all of your thoughts down in the comments section below. I'll be back tonight, as I said, with my post-match reaction to the England-Republic of Ireland game. So if I don't see you there, I will see you in the next round of predictions tomorrow morning.